Hey, Fed fam. Thank you so much for joining me again. Most employees don't know what they can do to help them in the adjudication process with their retirement application. Now, we've honed in on the fact that the retirement application should be healthy, but maybe you're a ways from retirement and is there anything that you can do now to set yourself up for your retirement future? You bet. In fact, there are a few things that you can do at any time of your career, but we'll jump into all of that in another video. The most important thing, though, that we want you to understand are the two most important things that you can do to help with the adjudication, and maybe we'll get into a third. But what you can do is if you are divorced and you have a former spouse who is entitled to a portion of your pension or your survivor benefit, it will be very key to send in your divorce decree or your court order acceptable for processing to OPM and their Retirement Services Court Ordered Benefits branch. If you are anywhere in between 6 months before retirement, you should not send this in. It will gummy up the process when you actually go to retire. If you are going to be retiring in the next 6 months, I would highly recommend you sending in the divorce decree with your retirement application. And then just expect that to be delayed if your former spouse will be entitled to a portion of your pension and or or any portion of the survivor benefit. Okay, so number one is sending in your divorce decree or any amendments at any time during your career, okay? The second thing is getting any information about deposit or redeposit information. Now, for you wonderful people that have been at the same agency for your entire career, that you've been covered since day one as a first employee, fabulous. Love that you did that, and I'm so happy for you. This is for people who have had any temporary service, Peace Corps service, military service, or service where they just weren't contributing to the retirement system. Now, this isn't necessarily non-pay status. That's another video that we can cover. But this is any information, again, where you've had maybe a break-in service, and then when you left, you decided to take your first contributions or CSRS contributions with you. Now you're back in service. How do you get credit for that time? Does it count? Does it not count? It will count for leave purposes, but that doesn't necessarily mean it counts for retirement purposes. If you have any questions about the difference between your leave service computation date and retirement service computation date, watch our video on the two most important service computation dates for a federal employee. But with that being said, you may owe the government money to get time for all of the creditable service that can be included in your retirement eligibility and pension computation. So we want to make sure that we're using the right numbers there, but also if you do owe an amount to the government, honestly, paying that sooner rather than later is the best option for you. There are a number of reasons why. Number one is interest. If you don't know, then if you owe a amount of, or if you owe a deposit or redeposit for service credit, then interest accrues on that time after a certain period of time. Like for instance, military service doesn't begin accruing interest until 3 years after you've been in federal service. So if you would like to buy that time back, then do it within the first 3 years of your federal employee career, or when you come back, the first 3 years of your federal employee career, and you're going to save yourself on some interest there. Deposit, redeposit information for any non-deduction service, things like that. Again, just going to lessen the interest amount by knowing that amount earlier, figuring out how much it will affect your pension. That's another big kicker. And then is it worth it to buy it back, right? or to make the deposit or redeposit for that service time to make it creditable for retirement purposes. So one is you're going to save yourself on interest. But two, doing it sooner rather than later can save you in the adjudication time it will take for the application to be finalized with OPM. Meaning that the government won't have to come back during that time and say, hey, do you want to make deposit or redeposit or not? And it will stop the back and forth between you and OPM for them to be able to finalize it sooner rather than later and you getting your full pension quicker. Now, will you get your full pension if your adjudication is longer? Absolutely, you'll get your full pension. And they will back pay you any amount that they didn't pay you that you may have already been entitled to that you didn't receive your pension for. However, if we can shorten that amount of time up, that could assist in a number of different situations, especially when you're planning taxes and things like that. And depending on timing of the retirement and when all of that happens, it could really make it to where, if you're getting a lump sum payment, then it may not be so bad for you. So we want to make sure a couple of different things happen there for you. Again, all about saving money and saving time. Those are your two big kickers on why it's important to get the information on a deposit or redeposit sooner rather than later. So those are the two things that you should do to help the adjudication process in retirement that you can do anytime during your career. And we actually do recommend doing it sooner rather than later with that. So the third deal that I said that we were going to get into, that something that you can do to help yourself have a better situation. It's not necessarily for retirement purposes. It's just for life purposes, for, your federal benefits, whatever. And that is beneficiary forms. And if you guys have been following me for a little while, if you know anything about our service and our business, you know that helping with the beneficiary forms is like number one on our priority list. Because we have had too often stories and experiences where the wrong person has gotten paid. Or it doesn't get paid right away to the right person because maybe the beneficiary form was not there and it could have been, and it could have avoided probate and things like that. So very, very key to make sure that employees have their beneficiary forms filled in. And I know I kind of talked about the employees being able to help themselves, but you can also make sure that employees are filling out their divorce decrees and sending them in, or not filling them out, but filling out their beneficiary forms and then sending in their divorce decrees as soon as possible. And again, we'll have the information right here where to send it for a divorce decree or court order acceptable for processing. The reason why we don't have quadros on here are generally those are not recognized. Do we recommend still sending them into OPM? Yes, because OPM has the final say and we're not legal, right? We're not a legal department. We can't say yes or no or anything. And even if we did, we would still want you to say, send it into OPM because again, they have the final say, their legal department. So that, and then obviously figuring out the deposit and redeposit information for your employees is key to helping them for all of the different reasons that we mentioned before. So thank you so much. We will include the retirement application checklist in this video, and we will also have links to the forms and things like that, and the address for OPM for the divorce decree here in all of the cliff notes for this video. Thank you so much for watching.